All right, so sound quality might not be what it normally is. Background isn't what it normally is. The only one that knows this background is that's here right now is Tim. This is the basement of where I grew up at my mother's house. I'm visiting my mother down here in Ohio, doing a little spring cleaning and getting stuff ready. So now that I don't have to do any more mock drafts, no more draft specials, I was on the know-it-alls, I think, for over 8 hours in the past weekend. So, whew,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
You guys cooked. I'm not going to, you guys cooked. Unfortunately, I was going through a lot of different connection issues, and I couldn't, tune into the full live stream that you guys did. But man, you guys did a phenomenal job. I mean, you guys' personality just came out. So if you guys didn't get a chance to hear the playback to the listeners out there, please feel free to dive back in and listen, man, because it was one hell of a show.
Peter, you said it was 8 hours. You said 8 hours worth of stuff
over the weekend. Yeah,
y'all really did know it all after all of that, man. That is going to class and understanding the assignment and everything else. Okay.
I gotta be honest with you. I think I was brain dead when it was over with. Tim was the smart one. He kept on for a while and was like, "I'll see you guys back in the live chat."
Yeah, I was on. Was it Thursday night? I was on, Brand. Thursday night. Yeah, I was on Thursday night, and like I can only take so much. Like I was in there for like an hour and a half, and I was like, okay, I gotta go, gots to go.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I did a show yesterday on the Steel Curtain Network. The homies filled in for Brandon. I was the scrub that filled in for Brandon.
He was
yesterday.
my scab.
Yeah, his scab. So, I filled in for them, and then today we are. I'm happy to see you guys. I was really pleased with the Bengals draft, and we'll go more into that. And I one thing I want to say is we had a lot of good memories in that basement that Brandon is in right now. A lot of good memories.
We did.
A lot of fun times. It was just it's memories you can never forget.
Yeah, if these walls could talk, for sure. Speaking of memories, it's going to be one of the last times you guys get to enjoy the intro the way it's currently sits. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to the Roaring Reactions show. Actually, I haven't said that in a while because that's normally what we have for the after games, post game show. But this is the post draft show, so I thought, why not Roaring Reactions? You guys like and subscribe. We appreciate everybody tuning in, whether you're on watching us. We are live now, in case anybody wants to know. We are going live now. Every Wednesday, you get Running Through the Jungle at 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time, live on YouTube. But always, you can get us anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, you name it. Afton, the captain, is over here coming in. I don't know how to explain this worse, man. Afton lives in Kansas and is a Steelers fan, so I don't like either one of those things. But I love Afton.
That's a combo.
She's great.
Representing.
But thank you for joining us, and as always. So let's jump right in. We're gonna start off with the Cincinnati Bengals and our division rivalries on draft grades. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I went to PFF for the draft grades because they're pretty freaking funny over there. Try to support the ex-Bengal no matter how bad some of the takes are over there. Sometimes, man, some of the grades they had on people, if you were watching the draft and looking at it, were hilarious. But we'll jump right into it, man. They gave the Cincinnati Bengals a B+ grade. And liked Mims, upside, liked Jenkins, stoutness, loved Burton. Didn't drop a single ball out of 57 targets. So there was some good stuff over here. I'm going to throw it around to you guys, and we'll start with Tim. Why don't you go ahead? I'm just going to go, and I'm going to let you guys behind the curtain here a little bit. I'm going to go in the order of when people showed up.
I love it.
Tim, what do you think of the Bengals draft? And what do you think of that B+ grade?
When I did the homies yesterday, when we did our review on there, I gave the Bengals a B+ grade, and I agree. And I agree with this grade. If Mims stays healthy and is a productive cast member of the Bengals, I know he's not going to start right away because we have Trent Brown, but Trent Brown is, injury prone as well. But if he gets that chance to prove that, he only played 8 games for Georgia, only started 8 games for Georgia, I think that grade could be a minus. But I gave him, I agree with PFF actually, because like I said, I gave the Bengals a B+ yesterday, and I still stand by that B+. We've got a couple pieces that we did draft that, I think that are going to be, they're going to be a statement for the Bengals, like Chris Jenkins. I think Chris Jenkins, if he's plopped in there with Rankins or BJ Hill, I think he's going to add that extra run defense. He's big, he's strong, he's young, and then with the 2 additions, and who knows how we're going to use the tight end room, because, we do have Tanner Hudson, we have some other whole bunch now. So we have the 2 new ones now, so I don't know how they're going to be used, but if they're used, it could be very productive for our tight end room, along with Gesicki and all them. But I agree. I'm not going to be long-winded on this, but I do agree with the PFF B+ score.
Yeah, we got a lot to get to for sure. And now we're going to out who was last by kicking this over to Chase Younts. Chase, B+, you agree with the grade? What do you think of the overall draft?
Yeah, I think a B+ fits it pretty perfectly. We were talking about the combination of if we were going to go interior defensive line in the first round and maybe go tackle in the second round, we can, have that be in our back pocket for next year once Trent Brown is gone, because right tackle is the thing we're looking at. And going with tackle in the first round and defensive line in the second round, Mims being able to sit down there, 6'8", 340, he's a big dude. He's got a lot of potential and upside with him. So hopefully they're able to develop him and go from there for the future. And then with Chris Jenkins, with him being such, a tough run stopper, he plays with a lot of passion, hard. He's fired up to be in Cincinnati, to say the least. So I think, even just aside from just the characteristic things, I thought those first 2 picks were really good. I'm not going to go down, obviously, all the picks, but I will mention with that tight end room, drafting Eric All in the 4th round at 115. Reports came out today that Drew Sample is actually going to most likely move to the fullback role, and that actually opens up this tight end room quite a bit.
Which makes sense. He was there most of the time last year.
Indeed, yeah. So he was back there blocking a lot on 3rd down, and that's going to allow Mike Gesicki on a 1-year contract to try to do his thing, and then maybe that gives Eric All potential to be all in next year in 2025 and be the starting tight end. You got Tanner Hudson still, and then you go on ahead and drafted Tanner McLaughlin out of Arizona, who's a very sneaky and underrated pick. So I think overall the Bengals hit on these picks pretty well, and then not to mention the 2 third-round picks in Jermaine Burton and McKinley Jackson, who we'll talk about more throughout the show. But I say a B+ fits pretty well for Cincinnati. And I'd even balance with an A-. It's just I think the amount of depth that we've been able to fill in this draft was very huge, as well as the offseason. And a lot of people are not going to talk about the Bengals because they're thinking, oh, it's the downfall. They're falling off, blah, blah, blah. They gave away these bigger players, stuff like that. Well, you're going to need depth when it comes to later on in the season because you never know what's going to happen. So I think the Bengals overall, that B+ grade is good, maybe an A-, but I'm excited to see because we have a lot of depth now on this team.
Yeah, Afton Ford said, I think this is an ideal situation for Mims.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, this is a guy who played 8 games at Georgia, but high-level games, competed at a high level of practice, and the precedent's out there for Georgia players for years, for players at these bigger schools to come out not having a lot of starts and stuff under their belt and still play, very productive roles in the NFL. We even have Terrell Davis is the number one example I think of. He played running back at Georgia. He was a backup. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well, you're playing against pro players in practice, so
100%.
You're gonna get that experience and everything. And I 100% agree that they think that's what you're alluding to there. It's just those guys get those reps in practice, and then they step out there in the game, and it's like, okay, they have the flash of potential. They got to get in the right coaching, and then they're gonna be they can have a chance to be really good players.
So I do want to point out, normally our headlines have been pretty boring underneath our tag names here. We're starting to liven it up a little bit. Tim started this, I think, with Run the Damn Ball. Now we got Chase Youts as the Eric All Enthusiast. If you guys haven't checked mine out yet, I've got a decent one over here. Happy we didn't have the Falcons draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
Very true. All right. Last but not late. He was not late. I want to preface it that we were all just a little earlier than he was. Justin Lacey, kicking it over to you, man. How about this B+ draft? What do you think?
All right. First and foremost, it's so incredibly nice to be back on the line with you guys after the draft is come and gone. No more mock drafts. We ain't got to deal with that anymore. The 3,000 mock drafts that I had to see on so many different shows, and we even up doing one ourselves too. So, it was fun and it was exciting times, but I'm going to be honest, it was just such a relief that once Saturday just came and went and the draft was just done. I was just, oh, thank God. All right. It's over. Now I can just process everything. Now, going into the Bengals draft grade. So PFF gave us a B+. I tend to agree. I'm going to give it a B, but I understand why the B+ is existing. I think that we're in an era right now to where everybody and their mama loves how their players got drafted. This is the part where everybody gasses up their teammate, like how every team had drafted. They're giving each other comments like, oh my gosh, we got a steal in this draft. And man, we could take player here. Oh my goodness, I can't believe this. Like, you're going to hear all of that. And I'm going to do the best that I can to refrain myself from making those exact comments, even though I really do understand why the players were selected and I understand why the direction was went. I personally was a Byron Murphy big time supporter, and I was hoping he was going to fall right into our laps at pick 18. And then when we got Mims, I know I said on the pre-draft show right before the draft happened, I know I said that, nah, man, don't go for a guy like Marius Mims, man, because that's like a project tackle. Well, then as the pick was made and I started doing my homework and like I should have done, then I understand why that pick was made. And it's not just for stashing him on a reserve for 2025 in the future, but it's the situation of where, as what Afton said in his comments, it's an ideal situation for him. He comes in, he learns behind 2 stud guys on both tackle positions. He is a right tackle, which the area that is needed. And on top of that, he can grow and elevate, and he has that dog mentality in him. I mean, come on. He is one of those guys to where it's like, hey, if he's getting off the bus and we going against like a Myles Garrett with Cleveland, or if we're going against a TJ Watt in Pittsburgh, or we're going against Justin Madubuike or Odafe Owe in Baltimore, bro, he ain't facing not one bit. He has that tenacity to him. And I also really love that the Bengals sort of pivoted from the old direction of getting all captains in college. They probably got a few out there that was captains, but they diverted from that a little bit this year and took a little bit of high risk on guys. I like that. I wanted to see something like that. Jermaine Burton, we're going to talk a lot about these players when we go on the back end of the show, of course. But Jermaine Burton is the one ideal pick that I looked at as like, man, this dude got a lot of talent. he had some character concerns that scared a lot of people off the board. But the Bengals was like, man, I'm going to take him right here in the third round, bro. I think that he is going to fit in nicely. And he has that attitude. Like I think about like with Jamar and him. I understand T. Higgins, but Jamar and him are one of those guys that just has attitude that where they will talk right back to them DBs after they make a play on you. And, you know, they're not afraid to get into a fist fight if they need to. That's what you got. That's the attitude you got to have in the AFC North. And I felt like that looking back on 2023, they got bullied so much in the division that this season, going into this draft, they made sure like, we're not going to have no questions about none of that. We want attitude. We want dogs on this D-line, on this O-line. Trenches was the main thing. I'm happy with how the draft has gone. Obviously, in due time, we'll see how these picks pan out. I'm sure there's going to be that Mr. I want to be right all the time. It's going to be like, oh, we should have took this guy. Oh, we should have took that guy. But at the end of the day, the Bengals made investments to where they made them. And the draft doesn't end this year. There's still a continuing cycle with next year's draft and then a year after that and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy how the draft went. I do ultimately agree with the B+ grade, but I'm going to settle on the B for now because I don't want to sound too optimistic and then get settled, then chill out later on. But I agree both angles.
We got another comment here from Afton. She said, what I want to see is a postseason draft evaluation show and book it next year. Yeah. When we're doing our lead up into the combine, I think one of the shows we should do leading up to the combine is reevaluating the draft from the prior year. I think that's a good idea. Show. It's a great
idea. Great idea.
That's a great idea.
We could send you we could send you a free running through the jungle T-shirt for the great idea. Then you can wear some Bengals garb to your Steelers functions.
Hey, only thing I will say in regards to that is if somebody gets hurt and they ended up redshirting the whole entire rookie season, that's going to be tough to evaluate. But overall, it's a fantastic idea.
Correct. You're going to have that with certain ones and certain ones you're not. I get it. So let's kick it around. We'll go backwards order here as far as how they're graded. I'm going to start. Worst grade is Browns, C+. Grade. I'm going to kick it right back over to you, Justin. What do you make of the Browns C+ grade? Agree, disagree? We're going to try and keep these sweet and short. What stood out to you from it?
Yeah, the Browns grade, a C+. I think they did fine. I think they did fine. You know, they didn't have a first round draft pick, but the pick that stood out to me, and it was kind of in the last part of the draft. They took my guy Jawan Briggs, man, out of Cincinnati. That guy is just all kinds of motivation, and I was hoping he was going to fall right to us in the 7th round, even though I love our 7th round pick too, or even go undrafted and just sign a free agent deal with the Bengals here. But the Browns, they must have attended that that local workout in Cincinnati. Yep. Somebody must have attended, because if they would have heard him speak and saw how he carried himself, man, that was one heck of a. I would give him a little bit of a higher grade. I would say B- at the very least. I didn't think they had a bad draft, So I agree, but again, I would give them higher. I thought the whole entire AFC North did a great job with this draft, but I understand why they went lower on the Browns. But I also think that that's more or less a punted up. They didn't even have a first round pick, so B- is what I would give them.
All right, clockwise, we're gonna stay here. Tim. C+ Browns draft. What'd you think?
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like I said yesterday, I think Hall and Zinter were good picks. Thrash, is a good pick. But other than that, C+ is. I think that's fair. I think it's fair.
All right, Chase. C+ Browns draft. What'd you think?
I'll go B- for the cards they were dealt. Just like Justin was saying, I mean, the cards they were dealt versus the cards that they dealt a couple years ago to get them in this situation to have no first round pick and other stuff like that. That's a different story for a different time. But, the Browns, again, were a good football team last year. They didn't really have to worry about addressing much in the trenches or anything like that, but they did with Michael Hall Jr. and Zach Zinter. So, I think baseline, I'd give them a B- on this draft, but it definitely could have been better, but, overall, I think they did an okay job with addressing some of their needs.
I go the opposite way on this one. I go C-. I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
They dealt their own cards to themselves. They gave away those draft picks.
Yeah.
No one took them from them. so they put themselves in this situation. I like Zinner, but I think that Zinner's probably there the following round. But he's not going to play, obviously, this year. And I do think they had some glaring needs, especially at linebacker. I'm not sure the kid from Mississippi State is the answer to that. And I thought there was better value that they could have got earlier in the draft. Look at where Trotter Jr. went. I thought he was a better linebacker, especially covering and looking at what they're doing in the AFC North. Having an agile linebacker to shadow the quarterbacks. Pittsburgh now has mobile quarterbacks as well. Lamar Jackson, obviously, I thought they missed on that too. They really need to hit to me on the Zach Zinner has to come back with following in 2025 and be what we thought he could be, a first-round draft pick kind of player. And Jawan Briggs, I think, is also a low-key key for this draft too. If he becomes a good NFL piece for them in that 7th round, then okay, I would concede the C+. But where I think it's at right now, C-. All right, we're gonna keep it rolling. Justin, we're gonna flip it over to Baltimore with an A-. What did you think about their draft?
I understand why they got the A- grade, but I'm going to drop it down to a B again. I think they're speaking way too highly on Nate Wiggins, the corner. I see why they gave him an A- grade, and it's probably because they were the team that pretty much drafted DJ Tampa, the other cornerback that everybody thought was going to probably go in the back end of the 1st round or even early in the middle of the 2nd round. Yeah, he just kept sliding and sliding and sliding. Baltimore finally takes him. I think it was the 4th round or 5th round, one of those two. I can't get it. They're looking at it as they got 2 blue chip caliber draft board, big board corners. And that's why I believe they got the A- grade. But when you actually look at the athleticism scores of each player, I think they're just grading them a little bit too high. And again, some of this is that I understand certain stats I understand why certain stats exist, but you also got to watch the film too. Nate Wiggins, he was a great corner in college, but at the end of the day, at the pro level, I think his skill set is not going to really hold up as well as people might think. However, I can be obviously wrong about that, and I'm not going to predict this dude's career, but I understand why they're giving him the A- grade. And I like the linebacker that they took too. I think that he's going to be pretty fast and quick twitch. Pair him along with Trenton Simpson, and obviously you got Roquan Smith there. I think they had a solid draft. I'll give them a B. Again, they didn't do a horrible job of drafting. They did a really good job. Everybody in this division did a really good job, but I would say a B grade for them personally from me.
All right, Tim, Baltimore Ravens, Ratbirds, A- grade. What's your thoughts?
I would have gave him a B+. With the addition of Nate Wiggins, they addressed the positions that they needed to address. Their corners, they're aging. But with Wiggins alongside with Marlon Humphreys, I think he could learn something. But we don't know. We never know how these guys are actually going to play until they get on the field. But the one pick that I actually liked was Rosengardner out of Washington. I think he's going to be a starting right tackle, for them next year or for this coming year. But I think that they addressed, like I was saying, I think they addressed the positions that they needed to address. One thing though, the biggest thing that drops them down to B+ for me is drafting Devin Leary out of Kentucky. He's just, he's not. I did not understand that. I understand that they were trying to find a backup for Jackson, but come on, man. Out of all the people,
the kid had one big year out of NC State, and they really expected more out of him at Kentucky, and he just did not. Not only did he not have a good season, he didn't look good. He looked disheveled to me.
Yeah, I just didn't understand that one. But yeah, I say a B+ for them. I don't agree with that A-.
Chase, Baltimore Ravens A-. What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna go B+ as well. I was just taking a look at some of their picks. The Nate Wiggins pick at 30. okay. Like it wasn't a bad pick, but I mean, they could have addressed, some not 30, but I think it was a fine pick. But I think Nate Wiggins is a little bit overrated in that regard. I like the Adisa Isaac pick from Penn State. I think they're going to kind of use him in that third down rush this year. Get a young guy on the field with a lot of energy and burst that they can use in some of their pass rush rotations and try to scare some quarterbacks with some unbalanced pressures to stay. I think Adisa Isaac will be good. And then with TJ Tampa, I actually got the chance to call the Iowa State Cincinnati game October 14th of this past year, and TJ Tampa had an interception on the second drive of the game, and he just played really well that entire game, and just name and buzz was with him before the game, during the game, and after the game. And I think he's going to end up being a very good coverage corner for the Baltimore Ravens. So I'll give him a B+.
So TJ Tampa, from my understanding, excels facing a line of scrimmage in kind of a zone coverage and reading the quarterback. I agree with you. Listen, I think we're across the board here. We sweep. I'm a B+ as well. I downgrade him from A- to B+. But the caveat and the key to this to me is I could see them, because they play so many 4 safety downs, moving him to a coverage safety.
Good.
That could be a really good play for them. So to be continued next year. This would be interesting for me to reevaluate with Isaac, and for whatever reason, the Baltimore Ravens have always wanted the shiny toy when it comes to wide receiver, and this year I think they actually got sustenance there. Devontae Walker out of North Carolina, I think was a very good pick where they got him at, and I said all shucks when they took him, because I didn't want them to take him there. We'll kick it back over here to Justin. The best grade out of the group, the vaunted Pittsburgh Steelers, A+. What are your thoughts, Mr. Lacey?
Yeah, I have to agree with PFF. The Steelers nailed it. They've knocked it out of the park with more specifically the first 4 picks in their draft. I thought they just did fantastic work. They really honed in the toughness attitude that, when it came to their draft picks. Troy Fautano just fell right to them. They didn't even hesitate to think about it. He was one of the better linemen on the board. They took him in their first round. Then they came back and they took Zach Frazier, which they've been looking for a center since Marquise Pouncey retired. And, they've had some guys in that just came in and out like a Mason Cole, whatnot, but they haven't had like that true center that they can truly invest in like in years past. Like that's a part of their identity on that O-line. They got it, I feel like, with the Zach Frazier draft pick. You can just tell he's going to be the starting center for many years to come. Again, I'm not going to try to predict this guy's future, but it just feels like that the Steelers just know how to draft those kind of players, those blue chip caliber players when it comes to the trenches, I should say. Yeah. They took a chance with Peyton Wilson, the linebacker at NC State. I understand that he had a lot of injury history and whatnot, but at the end of the day, that was still a great risk at the 4th round. Yeah, man, it was 4th round. He tested really well at the combine, and you can't overlook that they drafted Roman Wilson, your guy out of Michigan. He kind of reminds me of Charlie Jones, how he was sizzling coming out of Purdue, but we'll see how his career progresses. Him and Ricky Pearsall were kind of like neck and neck as far as being very similar in their traits at the receiver position regard. But dude, I can go on about their draft, but at the end of the day, I do agree. They had the best draft of all of the division. And it sucks because I'm saying that about an AFC North counterfoe in Pittsburgh. But at the end of the day, I got to tip my cap, man. Respect was what respect is given. A lot of people sitting here saying that the Bengals should have had what the Steelers draft had. Invest heavy in the O-line. Obviously, I'm glad the Bengals did the draft the way they did. But at the end of the day, we're not Pittsburgh. We're Cincinnati, okay? We have our own needs that we had to fill. We have our own culture and our own identity that we had to build. Pittsburgh has theirs. I can obviously respect and then applaud their draft without crucifying our team's draft, and say, "Oh, I wish we would have got that player." Dude, it's the draft, man. Talent is going to go everywhere. Okay, so you can't be mad when a player that you like slips to your division rival. Who cares? All right, you took some players that hoped that they would have gotten, and now they're in your house. So it is what it is, man. I say the Steelers just nailed it again. A+ for them. I agree with PFF. We'll see how their picks pan out, obviously, as the years go on. But tip the cap to them, man.
Tim, Pittsburgh Steelers A+. What are your thoughts?
I'm not going to say very much because, I've been hearing Pittsburgh Steelers fans in my ears for the last couple of days. So, I gave them their flowers. They did a great job. Good for them for addressing the trenches. I know they've been complaining about some of their offensive linemen they had last year. I'm happy for them. Good luck. And the A+ well deserved.
All right, Chase, your thoughts?
First off, let me address and say that I, Chase Johns, hate the Pittsburgh Steelers with a burning passion. But it's an A+. They knocked out of the park. Every single pick that they had was right on their board. They, put the hammer to the nail and got to work. And they had a great draft and also had a great offseason. It's been a heck of a time for the Pittsburgh Steelers and seeing what's going forward with them in 2024.
Yeah, I agree. I think Pittsburgh Steelers, to me, obvious A+ here. Now, the one thing and I said this, in a mock draft when Tim took Falatano, I'm not a early first 20 picks Falatano guy because I think his game in the pros translates better to guard. I think he's got a chance to be a Pro Bowl guard. I don't know. He's nasty. He'll be good in the run for them, but I don't know how well he sets the edge against speed rushers. I'm interested to see how he does against the Miles Murphys of the world and whatnot. So that is a concern with me. And then I think Peyton Willis is key to this staying at A+ when you look back in the next couple of years of the draft. If that guy stays healthy, he is a dog. Yeah. So
yeah, and think about it, man. They already got a lot like how Jermaine Burton and Eric All for the Bengals. For Eric All more specifically, the key is health. And then you feel like that you got a really legitimate weapon there. That's the same thing how they are on defense when it comes to Peyton Wilson. If his health checks out and he can stay on the field, pairing him up with Patrick Queen, who they just signed in free agency, you already got a ferocious pass rush tandem with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. TJ Watt can also drop back in coverage because he's technically an inside linebacker / edge rusher. Dude, that defense is going to still be tough to stop, So, but at the end of the day, man, we'll see how these picks playing out, of course, but I do tip my cap to him. Kevin Tate was on the other time, and we was talking about guys who he would have preferred to have gotten. He was talking about maybe Xavier Legette. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of glad that the Panthers when they drafted him because that dude is like Deebo Samuel, he's tough. He AJ Brown, or some people like to compare him to. So I'm glad that he didn't fall to Pittsburgh or even Baltimore for that matter. But they got a good guy in Roman Wilson too. So hey, I like what they did.
Yeah, unfortunately I did too. So it's come to that time. We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors. If you're with us here on YouTube, stare at this beautiful knotty pine behind me for a few seconds. And if you're on Spotify or Apple or wherever you podcast, make sure you share us, tell a friend to tell a friend, and we will be right back. All right, welcome back to Running Through the Jungle. We got the roaring reactions here to the recap of the 2024 NFL Draft. We got all the fellas here. We got Chase Younts, Tim Lyons, Justin Lacey, and myself, Brandon Harriet, a.k.a. B-Dirt, which you'll hear more of when we got more of these Steelers fans over here in our live feed. Austin's art is he's on one. He likes all the teams. So he definitely had several teams with a good draft. One being those Philadelphia Eagles. They were an A+. I do want to mention real quick because before we get more in depth with the Bengals, I think it needs to be noted just because they are becoming rivals of ours, and we've been fighting it out for the AFC win. We have a healthy Joe Burrow. Kansas City Chiefs got a B+. I think, the Kingsley Saumato from BYU, the tackle, is kind of the key to their draft, whether he becomes a starting tackle kind of player. And then Xavier Worthy could be pretty electric for them, obviously. Anybody got anything you want to add about that Kansas City draft?
I mean, I think that they had a solid draft too. B+ is, I think I'll land them there as well. The Xavier Worthy pick, to be perfectly honest, I think that they were just trying to get back to what they used to be for their identity as being all flash, all speed. Patrick Mahomes chucking it up to Tyreek Hill. You draft a guy who had the best 40 time, but at the end of the day, I just feel like that Xavier Worthy has a little bit more to offer than what John Ross did when he broke the 40-yard dash record. I think that he's going to do some fine things in the NFL. And he has Andy Reid to craft up play designs for him, and we'll see how that speed transitions into the league. But at the end of the day, I think you're absolutely right. That tackle out of BYU, Kingsley, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. It was complicated when I first heard it.
I believe it is.
But he just like I look at the Kansas City Chiefs line like I look at the Baltimore Ravens in a sense to where because they got such scramblers at quarterback that they can really make up the difference of skill set on their linemen. Obviously, the Chiefs have some of the better interior O-linemen with Creed Humphrey, Joe Tooney, and Trey Smith, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
With their tackles, they're a problem at tackles. Donovan Smith and Wanye Moores, you don't know what you're getting out of those guys. So with that being said, you have to bring in somebody like Kingsley. I think that he is going to be a key to where he can naturally grow and develop. He'll have his growing pains, but I think that he might actually pan out for them. I think it may go well for them. So I understand the pick, but B+ is a nice little soft landing zone for them. Yeah. They addressed a number of things that they needed.
So Kansas City and Buffalo, if I didn't say this, they did have PFF grade of B+ for Kansas City, Buffalo B-. Gentlemen, anything else you want to add? Chase, you want to add anything?
Yeah, just the fact that Buffalo just handed Kansas City. Like, I don't know what the whole.
I don't get that, bro.
I mean,
that's a weird energy.
Yeah, I mean, and it kind of goes back to between this Bills Chiefs quote unquote rivalry, if you would. I know it's kind of like a gentleman's wager where the Bills agreed, hey, we're going to shake on this and win the regular season game. And the Chiefs will shake on it and win the postseason game. So is it really a rivalry? Not really. I'm going to stand on that hill, die on that hill. But the Bills and Chiefs, the Bills trading away that pick in the first round was just a bit off. So I don't understand that.
Claude Bishop, welcome to the chat. Steeler Nation told me to come spy on you guys. We're here for it. You know me, I'm over there more than I'm over here, Claude. Claude's a frequent Steel Curtain Network supporter over there with the homies. Yeah. Big Penn State alum. We did, just so you know, Claude, in the first half of the show, we did give your boy Isaac some props. That pick for the Baltimore Ravens is a pretty good pick. Tim, anything you want to add about the Kansas City B+ or the Buffalo Bills B-?
One thing I did like that Kansas City did add was Hunter Norzad, the center from Penn State. And I think he's going to be a fill-in for Creed Humphreys because I believe Creed Humphreys is up for contract after this year, or you never know, he might retire. Who knows? Because Creed Humphreys I think he's been in the league for a little bit, but they did bring on Norzad from Penn State.
Creed,
what's that?
Just a correction there. Creed Humphrey was been there at the same time as Jamar Chase. He was drafted in the second round 2021.
64th, I believe. 64th, 63rd.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my bad, because I thought he was old as dirt for some reason. But I know his contract's
up. He sounds like his name will be old as dirt.
He plays like a vet.
Sounds like his name will be old.
Yeah,
he does. He plays like a damn vet. But I know his contract's getting ready to be up here soon. So they drafted Norzad to possible come in for him. One comment I did want to make was, I didn't understand the whole Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs trade. I understand what Kansas City is just trying to do, but drafting a wide receiver that's only 175 pounds, we'll see how that works out for him. Like I made a comment on Thursday night. I said, wait till he comes across the middle and Von Bell's sitting there foaming out the mouth. He's going to hit him so hard that Juju's going to feel it again. So that's my, that's my whole thought about him being 175 pounds. Maybe if he puts on 10 pounds of muscle, maybe it'll be a little bit more secure for him. But the Bills half of the draft, I don't understand what you're doing. I don't get it. It's like us, trading with the Steelers or the Ravens or the Browns. One of our guys or one of our picks. That's a conflict of interest to me. Because you have this battle going on in the division, or you have these rivalries going on. It's a conflict of interest. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But hey, the Bills got who they wanted, I guess. Kansas City got who they wanted. It is what it is. We'll see if it pays off for them or not. So who knows?
I want to touch base a little bit on the Buffalo Bills side, because I didn't get a chance to talk a little bit about them. And I'm not going to add very much, because I agree. Them trading with Kansas City seemed like they did it twice. Don't forget, too, the Buffalo Bills were the team that traded with Kansas City back in 2017 for the Chiefs to trade up and take Patrick Mahomes. People forget about that. Okay. Now, they weren't really a rivalry back then, but Buffalo could have had Patrick Mahomes if they evaluated correctly at that time. And I know Brandon Beane and what's his name? Sean McDermott were probably not the GM and the head coach at the time, but yeah, it just kind of brought me back to that a little bit. But it kept not making sense as far as like them kept trading out of their spot. They also trade out of the first round in general with the Carolina Panthers for the Panthers to take Xavier Legette, and they ended up taking Keon Coleman, which is good because I think that Keon Coleman is going to be a nice personality for him. I mean, his media circus when he did his press conference interview, it just started to spread like wildfire.
Yes,
it was
hilarious.
Very smart.
He's
going
to
be in the summer. Get them on.
He's going to be one hell of a personality to watch throughout the training camp, throughout the offseason, the regular season. Yeah, he's going to be one guy to watch for sure. As far as like his talent level goes, man, I would have enjoyed it if I would have liked Buffalo to take Xavier Legette if I was a Bills fan, more so than Keon Coleman, who was right there in the spot. And I feel like that they would have gotten similar production or even greater production potentially as the time goes on than what they had in the receiver room this past year. I know Stephon Diggs, he's obviously an outlier, but with the rest of their receiving crew.
Hold that thought. Listen, man, I'd like
had a chance.
Buffalo Bills taking Keon Coleman. Oh, you back?
I'm back.
You froze.
Oh, am I back now?
Yep. You're good.
Okay. Good. So overall, I do like Buffalo's draft, but I think that they could have stood pat a little bit more. Yeah. But hey, they got who they wanted. So, like Tim said, they got who they wanted. We got, Chiefs got who they wanted. So, let bygones be bygones for them.
Chiefs, I think Xavier Worthy fits well for them. He is small, but he does catch the ball, and they had a lot of drops last year. I didn't think they got enough depth pieces as far as like impact players in my mind, but we'll see, to be determined. Buffalo Bills, I thought they could have used at least one more wide receiver. They didn't get them, and that was surprising for me. Keon Coleman is a good wide receiver. B, absolutely hilarious. Eating Waffle House at 2:00 in the morning and saying that your first press conference is fantastic. But the one guy for the Buffalo Bills that I'll be rooting for is running back out of Kentucky, Ray Davis. I don't know if you saw the special with him, and his life story is quite fascinating. Seems like a great young man, and rooting for him. So. Other than that, I hope the rest of their draft is terrible.
Great pair with James Cook, though. I like that. Ray Davis, yeah.
So let's dive into our draft, man. I'm gonna kick it to you, Justin. Tell me who you want to talk about first. Let's go that route. Who you want to talk about?
Man, how can we not talk about Chris Jenkins, man?
Mutant.
He's your boy. He's your boy. B Dirt. We got your boy, Chris Jenkins. with the second round, bro. Obviously, I wanted Byron Murphy in the first round. I'm not gonna not make that known. I mean, I was pounding the table for that for a while, but Seattle just had to take him with this pick number 16. But at the end of the day, how the board ended up shaking out, all that defensive talent just kept pushing down the board. And now it just made sense to why they made the picks the way they made them, with getting one of the top tackles in this draft with the highest upside in Amarius Mims, because the drop-off from there after Troy Fautanu was going to be steep, like obviously Rosengarten, Blake Fisher, and all those guys, we'll see how they pan out with their respective teams they were drafted by, but we all understand that there was like maybe 5 to 6 tackles, so maybe at least 8 to 8 tackles that were deep, and once they were all starting to fly off the board, it was over for you. But the defensive edge, the defensive tackle class was pretty thick themselves too, but it all kept sliding. And obviously I wanted Johnny Newton too, but man, when I saw we got Chris Jenkins, that's the guy that I feel like is going to kind of revitalize the energy of this defensive room. Like, I will not be surprised that after his rookie season, he's going to take over as the leader of the defense, the entire defense, where the first thing you think about is him on that defensive front.
I'm not even going front, man. When they announced the pick, I had to pause. I had to mute myself, and I knocked stuff off my wall. I was celebrating so hard, fist pumping and hitting my desk and knocked stuff off the wall. It was great. Tim, kick it over to you. Who do you want to talk about first?
We had a good draft. I'm sitting here looking through my list of who we drafted, and I'm like, Mims is good, Jenkins is good, Burton's good, Jackson, he's promised, in the future. Eric All, I'm looking through my list, and you know what? I'm going to go with Cedric Johnson out of Ole Miss, 6'3", 260 pounds. I gave him an A grade. He was a 3-year starter for Ole Miss. He's got the size, speed, and the length. He shoots with his hands, stacks blockers, and sets the edge against the run. I think he's going to be somebody that's going to develop for the Cincinnati Bengals with what's going on with Trey Hendrickson and Hubbard. We could put him in with Hubbard or put him in with Trey when Hubbard's sitting out, or when Miles Murphy's in there, or we could do a lot of different things. I'm excited to see how we're going to use them in the future as well, not just now, but in the future. He kind of he kind of made me more excited now with everything that is going on with Trey Hendrickson. I don't know what's going on. I know I seen an article the other day or yesterday or this morning. I can't remember what the hell it was yesterday. I think it was this morning. They said that Trey Hendrickson was going to come in and talk to the Bengals tomorrow morning. But with the addition with that edge rusher, it kind of gets me excited to see what our future defense is going to look like. With Jenkins, with Jackson, it's going to be exciting to see, and hopefully we're not 32nd in rush defense next year.
We were 31st. Don't make us that bad, Tim. But yeah, I agree.
31st,
we were pretty terrible. Got a question here from Claw before we go over to Chase. What are your chances? What are the chances that you guys re-sign Tyler Boyd? I'm gonna kick it back old school. Slim to none. Slim to left town.
Yeah, I haven't seen any talks about him coming to Cincy or nothing.
None. And Tanner McLaughlin is really kind of a big wideout. Played a lot of slot in college, so I see him getting out there a little bit. Tanner Hudson getting out there a little bit, and then we got Burton that can play slot. I think you're gonna see Chase line up in slot more often. I think even Yoshi has some flexibility there. So I think slot's not an issue for me. Chase, let's kick it over to you. Who do you want to talk about in this 2024 draft from the Bengals?
See, you'd think with me being an Eric All enthusiast, I'd go all in.
I knew it was coming. I knew that was coming.
You did know it was coming because I'm talking about Jermaine Burton, actually. because
man, you know what? We gotta kick you off the show now.
man, I know. I'm just wearing the tag right now.
The misdirection, man. I like it though, but
misdirection, and that's something that this Bengals offense might be trying to do this year overall, because with them getting Jermaine Burton in there, they're going to try to put him in the slot, or they're going to put him on the outside. They're going to mix and match, just like Beater was talking about. You start seeing Jamar Chase play a bit in the slot as well. And then, it's going to cause defenses are we going to have to double team with a slot corner and a safety over top? And then that allows some one-on-ones on the outside for a guy like Burton, who led the NCAA in yards per reception, around 21 yards a catch last season. And a lot of his catches were on the outside, outside the numbers and everything. He didn't really do a whole lot over the middle. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to get him in there and try to mix and match this entire receiving core. But the big thing is with this offense, with Dan Pitcher, he was talking about, we have to get back to being explosive. We have to get back to the big plays. And that was in his introductory press conference a couple months ago. And adding a guy like Jermaine Burton pretty much says, hey, we're going to try to take the top off the defense and try to beat you deep like that. We have another true deep threat besides Jamar Chase. If people want to double team him, they want to cloud cover him and everything else, put Jermaine Burton on an island out there and tell him, hey, beat the guy in the fade. It's fine. Like, if they want to keep playing zone, go on ahead. Like, we got the underneath workings. We got all this stuff. But again, it kind of goes back to the run game, where it's like, hey, if we run the football well enough, if we have a pretty good run game this year, it's going to open up, and it's going to be the sky's going to be the limit for these receivers if we're able to run the football well. And you're going to see Jermaine Burton, if he ends up being one of those starting 3 receivers, you would say, he's going to end up running wide open down the field a lot this year and potentially have some big touchdowns along with Chase and Higgins and stuff. And it starts with the run game, but having that piece like Jermaine Burton on the outside and moving him around is going to basically unlock this entire thing for the Bengals. And again, bouncing back to Boyd. Boyd, great possession receiver, one of the best slot receivers in the game for quite a while. But, he really didn't provide that consistent deep threat that we will be, we should be getting in Jermaine Burton. So I'm not going to say like Jermaine Burton's the greatest prospect to ever live, because he's not, but I am excited about this pick and, to see how they're going to mix him in with this offense in Cincinnati.
I'm actually really happy that you really talked about a lot about Jermaine Burton and a lot of the different factors of how he can be utilized, which that response that you gave about him would be my answer to the previous question about, do you think our chances of re-signing Tyler Boyd do we have that possibility? And the chances are, man, I think that he served his purpose here, but we're morphing into a new direction with this receiving core, with the tight end room, the way how this thing is going, to where I don't even know if Tyler Boyd will even offer much of a spot anymore, not even as a wide receiver 4 on this current receiving core. Again, this is all thinking best case scenario of what happened with Jermaine Burton, but you still got Trenton Irwin, you still got Andre Yoshivas, you also still got Charlie Jones. That's a deep receiving core. You already know what you're going to get out of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, of course. And if Jermaine Burton carries on his number 3 in the pros, then that's 5-1-3, man, reunited. And I love TB, and he was the big brother to all those guys. But at the end of the day, I think that he's got to go on and do his own thing. And then I think he will sign somebody somewhere else, latch onto a team, right? Probably, well, if it's either before offseason workouts, OTAs, or whatever the case it may be, he's not done playing. And I don't think he needs to be done playing. But that's my response. I want to say I appreciate that. And Tate, man, you the homie, man. Glad to appreciate you for the shout out, man. Glad
welcome, Tate Boy Fresh, also from the Steel Curtain Network.
We got a lot of Steelers guys on this show, man. I like it. It's funny.
And the reason why I got into podcasting, my guy just reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to come on and talk about the Cincinnati Bengals when we were doing our playoff run for the first time, on a playoff game. And that's how this all started. Tyler Boyd, thank you for your service. You were a great Bengal. If you want to come back in 5 or 6 years and be ruler of the jungle, come on back. We'll have you in. We'll give you some free food and drinks and have a good time. But that's it. That's it. That's all we got now. I'm torn here. Because I do want to talk about Matt Lee. I thought he was a good sneaky pick. I don't know if we could have got a better 7th rounder for me coming out. But I do want to say this. And before we do, another new highlight here. I don't know if you can read mine. Cowboys took off season way too literally.
Wow. Hey, that is the funniest one.
That's
That
quick
was the
wit.
funniest one.
That's a quick wit spirit right there, B-Dirt. You on
So I said, in order for this to be a successful draft for the Bengals, I thought our first 4 picks in the top 100 had to be impact players, 3 out of the 4 this year, this season. So Marius Mims, 50-50 chance. Well, actually, that's not true. Based on Trent Brown's record, it's a 70-30 chance he'll be an impact player this year. Chris Jenkins, Jermaine Burton, and McKinley Jackson will all make impact this year. So it's 3.7 out of 4 impact players this year. And then what I really liked after that is we didn't take safe players. Much to what I think you were saying there, Justin, like, listen, 3 of our first 5 picks were captains, but we did take some big swings. The Cedric Johnson, right? Cedric Johnson, starter, not a ton of production, never more than 6.5 sacks in a season, but man, the measurables are there for him to be really, really special. Tanner McLaughlin out of Arizona, measurables are great, broke a couple of Gronk's records, flying under the radar, could be really good. Eric All coming off of a knee injury. But the upside there, who was it, Tim, that said that called his upside?
That was hold on one second.
Was it Louis Riddick?
It was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He could be George Kittle.
Yeah, he said Louis Riddick said his upside is George Kittle. So
George Kittle.
Crazy.
Josh Newton, 2022 had a really good season. 2023 fell a little bit, but that whole team did. And he had good measurables. So I'm looking right there, 4 guys that I think are big swings, like swinging for the fences. You know what I mean? So to me, after you got your 4 impact players that are going to be impactful, swing for the fences. Maybe you hit a double. Maybe you get a home run in those picks, but I love it. And yeah, Tate Boys, B-Dirt and me, he said, B-Dirt, you've been the homie way before the homies. That's facts. That's facts. Not as long as the run as Tim and I did. Tim and I's, man, we're 35? We're over 35 years now.
Well, we started playing baseball together.
Yeah, we'll leave it at
4th grade.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Mod came in just in time to see my comment.
Yeah, when you were reading that comment off, Mod just
Cowboys took
in.
the offseason way too literally. Come on now. You know we keep it funny over here.
It's true. It's so true. I mean, like
Mod's in the
Cowboys.
Mod's in the chat here. Mod actually is the one that does our intro. Where he's
all right, so I'm gonna be careful so you don't screw up my intro name and stuff like that, Mod. So I appreciate you for joining. But hey, man, the Cowboys, they should never have. I don't know what's going on. Maybe they're trying something different to where the Cowboys are just like embracing, standing back and letting like teams like the Eagles sign all the players. And because the Cowboys used to be that for the longest time, they always signed all the flashy names and stuff. And then it's always just yielded the same result. Maybe they're trying something different.
They need another run back.
I mean, I heard they're signing Zeke Elliott back.
They're just taking up meditation right now. They're just sitting back.
So is there anybody other than I know Austin said he was pretty excited for the safety out of Ole Miss. I don't know enough about him, but I hope he likes special teams because that's the only thing I can think of with all the safeties we have. And Zach Taylor did finally say what we kind of all knew already. Dax Hill's going to get a chance to play corner.
I like that.
We kind of saw it coming. Well, I think what they're going to try and do is, I don't know, he'll get on the field. He'll play a little bit. I don't know that he'll be out there a ton. But I think what they're going to do is try to groom him to be Hilton after this year.
Yeah.
Anybody disappointed in any of the picks?
Not for me personally, no. I mean, I know you're going to hear a lot about the reach of Eric All at tight end, because you could have had a guy like Tanner Bortolini, if I'm not mistaken. But at the end of the day, I understand why they made the pick. First of all, he went to Iowa and played tight end. It seems like guys that play tight end at Iowa come out to be very good players in the NFL. See George Kittle for that reference. Second of all, you needed to invest in that position. And Tanner McLaughlin, that's a guy that I paid attention to after Daniel Jeremiah brought it up, because he was supposed to go off the board second. I think it was on day 3. Like Jatavion Sanders, he was the first tight end mentioned off the board. He should have gone up in day 2. And then Daniel Jeremiah even spoke highly of Tanner McLaughlin. Like that was his guy. He should have been the next guy off the board. And then you started seeing guys like Theo Johnson go off the board. And I was like, oh, now I don't even care. But it was also crazy because they did hosted Eric All on a top 30 visit, and they ended up drafting him. A number of these guys they hosted on visits. And I was thinking, man, what if they ended up drafting Mason Schreck? I'm sorry, not Mason Schreck, Mason Smith out of LSU.
Yeah.
I thought that if the Bengals would have drafted him, it would have been okay, but he ain't Chris Jenkins. And then the Jags took him right before we took him, and that makes me feel good. That made me feel good because I was like, all right, good. Because I like Mason Smith, but that is a Project D tackle. So I can't really go wrong with anybody. Again, I understand that what's his name, Dejon Anthony, out of the safety out of Ole Miss. People are going to look at that like, oh man, we got so many safeties in the room, we don't need to draft that. Yeah, but it's late in the draft. It's on day 3. You're getting talent. Why not? Okay. Again. Yeah. Look at other teams and how they drafted. Green Bay, I don't even know how many offensive players they took, but they took a lot of defensive guys, especially in the backfield. You know what I mean? So sometimes you gotta just let the board play itself out, man, and then just take whatever talent that, even if you feel like that you filled the room up already, it ain't no harm done by taking another guy. You never know who can pan out and who doesn't pan out, I should say.
Yeah, I'm all, me, I'm all in on Chris Jenkins. Fun part about Eric All played about 3 or 4 games for Iowa this past season before he blew out his ACL. Before that, he was a captain for the University of Michigan in 2022. He transferred from Michigan over there when our quarterback left. We got Big G in the building, so that means all the know-it-alls are over here. Bengals B+ draft, the whole division will have a winning record, and maybe a first all 4 teams make the playoffs. Could be crazy. Tate asked what we thought about the Steelers draft. Tate, you're going to have to go back and watch this to get all your flowers, or listen to it on Spotify or Apple for tomorrow. But you were the only one we gave. Actually, you're the only one we gave an A to. We gave you an A+, and we thought the Baltimore Ravens draft was a B+. And we gave ourselves a B+ as well. So you were the only A, and that was an A+. So
yeah, you're going to be very happy with our analysis when we talk about it when you do the playback. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I agree with you. I didn't understand why we took another safety with all those in, but all that said, I thought it was a very good draft. I'm looking forward to. Now we got the waiting game to get to training camp and get
schedule release coming up.
Schedule release, that'll be fun.
Yes, yeah.
See what when we get those primetime games. See if we probably have to go to another country or not. All that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
Those are always fun, but yeah, man, it's football season. There's my guy.
There you go.
Chris Jenkins. 6'3", 299, and I think he's going to be able to put another 15 on that frame.
Oh, man, he's going to be a dog, man. Yeah. You can just tell. He's just motivated to just be a dog.
Yeah, and I'm pretty happy about it. Do you trade T? No. So here's what I think with all things going on with Trey and T and everything. I think we sit everybody down and we just say, hey guys, let's all sing Kumbaya. And if you watched Major League, There's only one thing left to do. Win the whole bleeping thing. And I think that's kind of what we need to do. I think that needs to be the mantra. Just go after it. Man.
Pretty much, yeah. But hey, one thing, like, I still don't know how the Philadelphia Eagles have enough money to pay for Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts. It's almost like they went into the Madden settings and turned off the salary cap, and like, don't
forget about Barkley. Don't forget about Barkley.
Yes, Barkley, and they have Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata. They got guys on Darius Slay. They're paying on defense. They literally just signed what Bryce Huff from the Jet. I don't know how in the world that they're doing.
Don't get it.
But Howie Roseman is a mafia man. But
I will say this:
he's great. All right, I don't know how he's doing it, but he's great. Writes off the checkbooks or something.
Sounds like they got Donald Trump's accountant. And on that note, wrap things up.
I like that.
You make $1 billion and not pay taxes, man. I don't know. The Eagles figured out the secret sauce.
Got that right.
Yeah, we're gonna get it wrapped up here. We appreciate you guys as always rocking with us, especially with us starting off this new live venture. Appreciate all you Steelers fans coming over here, showing us love. That's where I cut my teeth and got into this stuff. So I appreciate you guys coming over here as always. Please like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. If you know a Bengals fan, hit that share, send it over there. Let them know about us. We need all the support we can get. We're going to keep doing this thing. Every Wednesday night, we're going to have Running Through the Jungle at 8:05 Eastern Time live. We will be going then on Spotify, Apple, and all that kind of stuff for your morning drive time at 5 a.m. the following day. And then we will have the roaring reactions, and we're going to work on some other things too, trying to get somebody else bringing into the mix. And I know once Chase figures out his school schedule, we'll know more about Cut to the Chase for the season. So, and we'll always have those roaring reactions after games. So we appreciate you guys checking us out, rocking with us. And check us out next Wednesday as we are running through the jungle.